Hey guys, we've got news for Global for April 28th. It's Final Fantasy VIII and Knights of Grandshelt. And this week, joining me to discuss the banner and the events is once again YinToYang. So you can say hello again.
Buongiorno, miei amici, Stinzar. Come stai?
Hello to you as well. So you wanted to be here again because you're a huge Final Fantasy VIII fan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is right. I am one of the bigger 8 fans.
It's surprising because actually a few other people said, "Can I join you for the Final Fantasy VIII stuff?" I had already said yes to you, but I was a little shocked that like so many people requested like Final Fantasy VIII. I was not expecting that. I know Final Fantasy VIII usually is like not controversial, but like people will say it's not one of the better Final Fantasy games, etc. But other people will defend it to the death. So it's really like polarizing is the better word I should say.
It's a very love-hate relationship in the fandom. It's one of those, you'll either meet someone who absolutely loves it or people who will just shit on it every time.
Pretty much, that's what I found. So we're going to talk about these units and the banners and all that, but before we do, I wanted to talk something briefly that is not specifically news for the week. It's an issue report, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this frustrates me a little bit. I'm a little like head scratching here. How did the Brave XPS team get this so wrong? Was this like a problem that like the actual issue was lost in translation? Because I know like mostly it's like Japanese developers and stuff. Maybe they don't understand what they're talking about. So here's the thing. They're saying we've received reports that like people are unhappy that we have +3 awakenings for Flood for all these units. That is not the problem. No one is complaining that we got Flood enhancements. The complaining people have been doing is because they did not get the burst enhancements. They left out the burst skill from all the Securas, all the Lightnings. These units were supposed to be given the burst skill during the Nicole Secura banner, and they forgot it. So players were a little bit disappointed, and they were sending in tickets and asking support and asking on Reddit like what happened to the burst skill. And somehow, I don't understand how they could possibly misconstrue this. They thought people were asking, why did you give us the flood skills? No one is asking that. They're asking, where is the missing burst skill? So how did the wires get crossed this poorly? Like,
like, you really, I don't know like how their communication services work that well, but I mean, when you bring up an issue with anything, it has to be generalized usually. So if Burst was part of the Flood update, I would assume that support would take Flood into account as well, probably.
yeah, so apparently support has been reporting to like the developers, oh, players are upset we got Flood. No, we're upset that we didn't get Burst. That was accidentally or intentionally left out of last week's update. So how did this happen? And oh my god, hopefully someone can like go back like, no, we didn't mean players didn't want Flood. They're asking where is Burst. Oh my god, this is mind blowing that they can. I don't want to be rude, but how could they get it this wrong? Oh my god. Anyway, let's go back to today's news for the current week. Okay, so we've got Squall, Ranella, and Knights of Grandshelt. So we're going to talk about the Final Fantasy VIII software, because these are actually 2 standalone banners. They are not sharing a banner, they're just sharing a week. Okay, and Squall, by the way, is the Neo Visions Awaken, the 5-star version. So, as far as Ranella herself, do you want to talk about her a little bit, Yin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ranella and Angelo is a dark unit. She's primarily focused in dark magic DPS. Back in JP, she could potentially outdamage Dark Rain before his global upgrades, but given the upgrades we got to his SCMR, that actually might not be the case anymore. But she is still probably one of the better dark supports that we'll have on the team, with having a 25% in peril field with Diablos, and quite the powerful finisher.
Yeah, she also has Tornado for like wind damage and Quake for earth damage. The problems with those are, I'll say, you give the positives, I'll give the negatives. The problems with her earth support is Quake is like one of those skills that doesn't really chain properly, especially if you quad cast it, it's gonna break. So that's a major problem with Quake. So she can't really utilize that. And then Tornado,
like the only thing good about the Quake that she'll have is that it'll be a source of 135 in peril.
Yeah. And then Tornado does have chaining problems as well, but that one, if you spark it, it can properly chain all the way quadcast. It's very hard to do, but it's doable at least. Quake is not. At least not really. I think there's technically a way to like delay the second cast of Quake to where it overlays, but that is like next level challenge. So most people are just not going to bother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and but like you say, her dark damage is decent. It's a little harder to say it's good damage on global because global's power level is just overall quite a bit higher. Like you mentioned in JP, it was respectable because she did, like in the right circumstances, do slightly more than Dark Rain. But on global, Dark Rain got a massive buff. Ranella is not getting any buffs, it seems. And then, of course, comparison to physical units in, like, for example, Clash of Wills or Final Boss where you can use anything, you're just not going to use mages, period. Even including Dark Rain. Like, as far as I saw, no one used Dark Rain last month or the month before. When did he come out? No, I guess the reason they didn't use him last month is because the boss was heavily resistant to the dark, wasn't it? So they wouldn't use him anyway. So that's not really fair to say.
Yeah, that's true. She does have some minor support in her kit as well. She has a 50% general mid in her kit, and on top of that, she has the Aura spell, which fully upgraded and quadcasted would give 24 LB crystals a turn.
Pretty cool. And I'll point out right here in the fine print, if you look where the mouse is, Zelle will receive his Neovision's Awakening next week. So I know people are going to be asking, where's Zelle? Because he came out this week as well in JP. Thankfully, they are giving us an absolute date, as he will be next week. Unlike Barbarisha and Rubicant, who they said is coming soon, it's been, how long has it been? 2 months? 3 months since Final Fantasy IV, and they're still MIA. So...
yeah, the only excuse that I could give Gumi for Barbarisha and Rubicante is because global, we have them switched in terms of rarity, whereas like Barbarisha was the 5-star base and Rubicant was the 4-star base here. It was the other way around in JP, so they probably have to remodel the kits a little.
Yeah. And then Squall gets his Neovision's Awakening. He's pretty decent. He is not going to be able to see his full potential this week because the reason people would say Squall is decent in JP is because he's very similar to star player Titus in that he scales very, very hard with external gear. So like Titus on his own is okay, but nothing special. But then all of a sudden you load up Titus with like, Yuna, Orange card, etc. And now he's like amazing. Squall's the same way, except he needs stuff from Laguna, who is not out yet. Should be here next week along with Zelle, based on Zelle coming next week. It'll probably be the Laguna banner. And his gear powers up Squall to that good level that we want.
Absolutely, which really helps. It's the same with Ranella. Like Ranella, with how it has been with the series units so far, Ranella is the magic DPS stuff from all the Final Fantasy VIII units, and Laguna, who's coming out next week, will be everything for the physical side of Final Fantasy VIII.
Mm-hmm. And now, as far as the banner goes, pretty typical. It's just It's not a random. It's just a generic banner. No card, no special gear on it. It's just a regular old step up. You're gonna get tokens. Her shards are in the shop, as well as like mystery crystals and the other one, mastery crowns, if you want to get those.
Which is really good for her banner. It's 42k for pity. And how much are the mastery crowns and the crystals usually per coin?
I think after I did my Frievia pulls, I did 5 coins on her shards, and I did the remaining 5 coins on 1 mystery crystal. And I think I couldn't even afford a crown, I think. So they're pretty expensive.
That's fair. They are. That's fair.
And here's Ranella. We talked about her. We're going to share the card in a moment. Her STMR is a one-handed thrower with flat magic for herself. It didn't stack in the JP server, the flat magic, so I don't know if it does or doesn't on global. There's no specification whether it does or does not. Because there's no global upgrade tag, I would assume it's still not going to stack, but I guess we won't know that for sure until Thursday. And then her TMR Go ahead.
Yeah. If it does stack, ultimately Ranella with 2 of her STMR, her TMR, her Vision card, and her EX3 Awakening in passive, she'll have a total of 2,500 flat magic to add to her kit.
Oh yeah, that'll be pretty nice.
Yeah. Even without it, it's still 2,000 if the STMR doesn't stack.
Yeah. Now, for my personal, my viewpoint, for the counterpoint to Yin's enthusiasm, I will say that for Clash of Wills, Ranella is not going to have much of a place, just like every other JP unit. In Dark Visions, not for the most part, just because, Mage, he'll be good on dark fights, dark mage fights, but like for final bosses, probably not too much. One place that I have seen Ranella good use is on a few of the trials in JP. So the Belphegor trial and the Cerberus trial, her Imperil Field is actually quite nice on those 2 fights. And as far as Squall goes, he's like very similar to Titus. Doesn't have as good of chaining damage as Titus for the off turns, but he's an SLB unit. Very similar to Titus. He'll be doing SLB every 3 turns. That's his real damage. Other than that, like, they're very, very similar. Like, they're not identical, but they're... Oh, I will mention Squall's STMR and his Chronicle weapon, we're going to get to soon, is non-elemental. So he actually has slightly better elemental flexibility over Titus, because he can use his Chronicle on everything, whereas Titus can only use his Chronicle on water fights. So that's nice.
True. It is one little plus side to Squall over Titus.
And then Knights of Grand Show. So now we're skipping to a different banner. This one is a premium banner, and you guys know what that means. Pull out your wallets if you want to go all the way. Very, very expensive. Premium banner, 60,000 for the first pity, 78,000 for the second. He got a global upgrade. So before we talk about that, we'll talk about the unit briefly. If you guys are, if you're fans of my JP videos, you've seen me use him quite a bit. He's a really good finisher. He is trance shift, which is a little bit of a headache. So if the fight ever goes longer than 4 turns, he loses a ton of power because he's stuck in the base form for 4 turns. Thankfully, though, most of the times you're using him, it's going to be on short fights anyway, or Brave, or Dark Visions, so it won't really matter. He's a light locked finisher, basically like Sephiroth, Arn, etc., but he has trance shift, so closer to Sephiroth. More damage, has Omni Killers to everything, gears super easy. He has really high stats, and he's getting an upgrade. So before we talk more about that, I'll just mention the upgrade is actually previewed right here. This is his shifted LB, so his shifted LB is being upgraded, and because it's still locked to light, as we can see right here, that basically means higher modifier. So more damage is just a raw damage upgrade. So what do you think about this unit, Yin?
Well, I can say every Rain and Lastwell shipper is going to be happy now.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like the overall design of the unit. I'm not talking about the kit. I mean, just the whole design of Rain and Lastwell stuck together. All of a sudden, we have a new unit. I personally think it's a little goofy as well, the whole idea of let me just stick 2 people together and now we have a new one. I've heard people say this is like a Dragon Ball Z reference. I've never actually watched Dragon Ball Z, so I'm just taking their word for it. Have you? for curiosity?
Yeah, I watched Dragon Ball Z, so yeah, it's definitely a reference because characters have fused together and have a fused name on top of it.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's cool. And yeah, his STMR is a great sword. It's a little bit weaker than like Esther's great sword, but for himself only, it does give flat attack, which is obviously going to be good on him. His TMR is kind of whatever. It's just killers basically, and it is killers locked to weapon type. So his TMR is honestly kind of poor. The big reason people are going to chase this guy is his vision card. His vision card is to this day one of the best vision cards in JP for physical units. It's only available at EX3 of a premium unit, very expensive, but it's 130 attack power, 80% attack power, and then for all physical units, which is basically the only thing you're using this on anyway, so basically everyone, 100% LB damage and 500 flat attack. The only restriction is that it's a physical attacker, but like I said, you're not going to put this on a mage anyway, so it's basically unrestricted.
Yeah. So it's a really good card, and I hope I off-banner him.
Oh, so you were not going for EX3 on day one of this guy?
Oh god, no. I don't even have the money to
Yeah, I have been considering. I'm not entirely sure, because on the one hand, like Knights of Grand Shell, the unit himself, I mean, he's good. He's getting an upgrade, so he's even better. I've used him on tons of like EX fights in JP, which is the primary place I use him. You can't use this guy on trials, as you know from my JP rants. Every trial going forward has 500% light resist, so he is just hard locked out of trial content. The JP developers put the absolute troll on players. As soon as people pulled for this unit, the next week, trials began coming out with 500 light resist. I mean, that was like the trolliest dick move the JP developers could have done on their life, and they did it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, another thing I would really say is, like, we love a lot of the JP premium units, but Global has been just knocking it out of the park with every Glex unit they've done for Cow so far, with how much more varied and unique their kits have been.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm a little less concerned about Knights of Grand Shell, because like I said, I used him on basically every EX stage in JP, because he's just like the one unit answer to everything. But on Global, we've got like Esther that does basically the same thing. We've got like Roberta now, who is also amazing, and both of these are non-elemental units. So like, for example, I'm using Knights of Grand Shadow in JP, even on stages that are heavily light resist. Not as much as the trials, but enough to where he takes a penalty, but he's still usable and still good enough. But like, you can use like Esther and Roberta on element for every single EX stage, and I don't think I'm having any problems with them. So I don't know if I need this guy. I don't know.
I would also say, like, in fairness between the two banners, I feel like Ranella, you get more out of it because the exchange shop offers the crystals and the
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot that. Yeah, his exchange shop is hot garbage. There's nothing in it. Nothing. Some outdated, old 5-star STMRs, and that is it. And then the NV tickets, which are in all premiums. There's no crowns and no crystals in his shop. Once again, Global, come on. What's going on here? Why did you take them out of his shop?
Yeah, like, the only good STMR in the exchange shop is Regina's in there.
Yeah, it is a good STMR, to be fair. I personally saw that. I'm like, I've got three or four copies of that because I've pulled her so many times. So for me, it was like, this is so old and outdated. But for a player that doesn't have it, it's a great STMR. It really is.
Absolutely. Like, out of all the choices to exchange there, Battle Intelligence would be the best option for new players going for POG.
Mm-hmm. And then to jump back to Ranella real quick, we've got I didn't even realize, I actually don't have this card on JPs. I didn't even know. Oh, this is the scene where Squall's carrying Ranella across the bridge. Yeah, that's kind of a sweet scene. Okay.
It is one of my favorite scenes in the game.
Mm-hmm. But, so the card is for mages on the Final Fantasy VIII. It's a typical series card, same as like the Final Fantasy IV series card. It's 500 magic to all FF8 units. By memory, I believe she's the only mage in Final Fantasy VIII for Neovisions. Am I overlooking any, Yen, from JP?
Nope.
No, she's the only one. Okay, so it's just for her.
Yeah. 8 does not get enough love in JP.
Yeah, and so it's good for her. Unless you have Dark Range card, that's the best mage card. Period. But this is the great secondary option.
This really is a good secondary option.
Mm-hmm. And then the event, you're going to get your Zelle. Don't fuse him because his Neovisions is coming next week, so lock him and save him. Hopefully you've been doing that like I've said in the past. Awakening materials for Lone Lion Squall. This is worthless. You're not going to use this. You might. Who knows?
It's one more source of human killer.
Yeah. This is a little disappointing to me right here because Zelle was one of the most accessible bonus units for this event, and he's being delayed a week, which means you either don't farm this week or you just farm with lower bonus. Like, I don't know why they wanted to really delay Zelle an entire week. I think it's just because they wanted to lower bonus for players, I guess. But what other reason is there? But yeah, Zelle is not available.
The only other reason I can honestly think of is just the fact that if the Laguna Banner and Kairos and Ward are coming next week, it just puts another NVA on the 8 banners.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So there's that, and then there's an EX stage for Mystery Crystal. It's not really hard. I don't remember. So we'll do a budget guide for it. It's basically going to be just take whatever and finish it off. I don't remember it at all from the JP server, to be completely honest here. Like I said, on JP server, I would just take Knights of Grand Shell to everything, and he would just blow it up. So I don't really know what it does, but I'll figure that out on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll probably blow it up with Esther instead.
Yeah, that definitely will work. So here's the Chronicle Battle. This is the easy Chronicle Battles where you just farm it 10 stages, no challenge, OTK turn 1, bring bonus units. This is the gear. So the important one is the Chronicle weapon for Neovisions Awakens Squall. Like I mentioned, it gives Squall only 750 attack and then some LB damage for everyone and some double hand. So it's an overall decent greatsword, and it's best in slot for Squall. So that's nice. And then this one, I don't even know what it does. I didn't make this in JP. What is it? I think it's a one-hander, which is why I never used it. So
yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah, one-hander. No one cares. Quake +3 is getting upgraded. This is basically for Ranella. I think a couple other units get it as well. Like, I think you mentioned Eurasia has this, and like William
Dark Fina.
Dark Fina, yeah. Like, so a few other units that you don't really care are also getting it. It's mostly for Ranella, though. It's not really much else.
Yeah, like there's no one else really outside of Eurasia and Ranella and NVA Dark Fina out of the Neos that really care about Quake +3.
Mm-hmm. Season 4 update again. Once again, make sure you read the fine print right here. They are saying there's going to be a delay on the rest of the season. Next month, they will not have a story update at all. So it will only be this month, and then in June, they're going to give us the rest of Chapter 3, Part 1. Will all be in late June. So I would assume, unfortunately, as sad as it is, this is probably due to Shally passing away, because she was like the lead of the translation team, from what I understand. So they're probably restructuring that to get translations, because story events and the main story is like the most translation heavy of the content they do, is translating the actual story itself, because there's a lot of text in that story. So that's probably the reason for that. So I guess I can give them a pass for being late, because there's definitely a good reason for it.
There's a very good reason for it, and it's going to be sad to see that we won't have any of Shally's little humor in the dialogue.
Oh, the puns and the pop culture references. I love those. Some players say they're out of place. I disagree. I think they're hilarious. And yes, they will definitely be missed.
Like, all my favorites definitely go to everything she did for Z-Card.
Mm-hmm. And then from the story, You're going to get some more story gear. As people know, or you might know from the JP server, the main Season 4 story keeps getting more and more and more story gear upgrades, or upgrades through story-specific gear. You know, this wave of gear is not that great. It's a little bit on the weaker side. Some of the future stuff is way stronger. This gives Leftia the Jade Moon Pendant effect, basically, status immunity. This gives Runda a slightly better version of Safety Bit. I mean, these aren't bad, but they're just not that great either. Javi gives him triple cast Black Magic, which is pretty worthless because he has quad cast naturally in his kit. So this one's like a big question mark. Like, why did they even do that?
Yeah. Like, the only reason I can see it is if you need the triple cast as opposed to the quad cast. But given that, it's like, why?
Exactly. Now this, I'm a little disappointed about. Okay, so people are probably asking why. So they're giving us the fixed dice upgrades to swap it back and forth to the current version, the new version. That's like whatever. No one's going to use fixed dice anyway. Who cares? The reason this is annoying, this is not supposed to be part of the heroic quest. This was an actual like boss battle in the JP server, the Kaiser Dragon from Final Fantasy VI. For those of you that are fans of Final Fantasy VI, you know what the Kaiser Dragon is. And I guess they're just cutting the boss battle. It was like a mini trial. I mean, it wasn't hard trial. It was a relative. It was kind of like an EX boss. It was an EX stage, and they're just cutting the fight. Like, I guess so. It's just more cut content. Like, why did they do that? Was it really that big a deal to give us the EX boss, Kaiser Dragon? Why are they cutting this fight? Like, it wasn't a hard fight. It's not because people were going to struggle and complain it was too hard. It was just like the series boss battles. It was a nice dose of nostalgia to the Final Fantasy VI. For those of us that played, like, oh, that's the Kaiser Dragon. You know, we're fighting him again. It was cool, and they're just cutting the content. Why do you think they're doing this, Yin?
I really don't know myself, and it's upsetting to say the least, because I personally love doing a lot of the series boss battles, and I was looking forward to a lot of the ones we didn't get, like fighting Ultimecia, because, you know, 8 fan right here, I was really excited to fight the 8 boss and see how they did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, were they going to go the full 4 fights for the final boss? Mm-hmm. Or is it just Ultimecia on her own?
Oh, you're asking? No, it was just Ultimecia by herself. It was actually her like human form. I think in the 8, didn't she have like a special final form or something? I don't remember specifically.
So for the final boss battle was a 4-phase boss battle. You fought Ultimecia as the sorceress, then you fought Griever, the guardian force that she summons, then you fight her fused with Griever, and then finally you fight the final boss form of Ultimecia.
Oh, okay. No, the series boss battle was just her human form. The one you fight her against. Yeah. But anyway, so we're skipping the Fiend Dragon boss battle, I guess. I don't know, so big sad face there. And then the last thing this week is the Return Chapter 5. This is the final chapter. We're finally going to get this very very underwhelming vision card for free. And yeah, the Return event is finally over. So what did you think of the Return event overall, Yen?
I thought it was fun and interesting. I have one little minor gripe that I felt more like was missed opportunity than like just something bad. Like when we first got to see Gehenna, I thought, oh cool, this is like final boss form of Dark Reign, but then like story reveals it's no more than another Exo Star monster, and I'm like, guys, you wasted opportunity to have like Dark Reign transform into something even cooler and even make it like a brave shift for the Dark Reign unit.
Oh, that'd actually be really cool. But of course, JP went through a long period where they just didn't do brave shifts, and Dark Reign was part of that.
Wasted opportunity, I say.
Yeah, thankfully, recently JP has been coming back around to brave shifting, so I'm really happy about that. But that's basically the content for the week. So we've got a Chronicle to farm, a Mog event to farm, the remainder of the season, or the Season 4, Chapter 2, I think is the last part. Oh, and I should mention from the Chapter 2 stuff, or the Season 4, Chapter 2, people will be able to get Run to EX2 from this. So that'll be very helpful.
That will be good. They are a very good unit. Mm-hmm. A good budget tank.
Yep. But alright, that's basically it. So thanks again for joining me in to talk about Final Fantasy VIII and more.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Can't wait to get my Ranella.
I hope you get very good luck in pulling her. So I will see you guys next time. Later.
Ciao, everybody.